What if I told you that your body has a built-in blood sugar reset that happens every single night while you're asleep? Most people have absolutely no idea it exists. Instead, they spend their days avoiding sugar, counting every carbohydrate, buying expensive supplements, and wondering why their morning blood sugar is still higher than it should be. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. I've had patients walk into my office frustrated because they were doing everything they thought was right. They skipped dessert, they switched to whole grains, they even gave up foods they loved. Yet every morning, they looked at their glucose meter and saw the same disappointing numbers staring back at them. They thought they were failing. The truth is, they were simply missing one of the most important parts of blood sugar control. I'm Dr. Christopher Adams, and after more than 15 years helping adults improve their metabolic health, I've learned something that surprises almost everyone. Your blood sugar isn't controlled only by what you eat during the day. In fact, some of the most important work happens after the lights go out. While you're sleeping, your body shifts into an entirely different metabolic state. Hormones change. Your liver changes jobs. Your muscles recover. Your cells become busy repairing damage from the day. And if you've prepared your body correctly before bed, this overnight window can support healthier blood sugar levels by the time you wake up. But here's the problem. Most people unknowingly sabotage this natural process every single evening. They eat dinner too late, they sit on the couch for hours after eating, they snack before bed because they think they're hungry when they're really just bored, then they wake up confused because their morning blood sugar is higher than expected. It isn't because their body is broken. It's because no one ever taught them how to work with their body's natural overnight processes instead of against them. Today, I'm going to show you the simple evening habits that can make a real difference. These aren't miracle cures. They're practical, science-informed strategies that help your body manage glucose more efficiently overnight. Some of them take less than 10 minutes. One of them costs absolutely nothing. And one of them is so powerful that many people notice the difference on their glucose monitor within days of making it a consistent habit. But before we begin, I want you to understand one simple concept. Imagine your bloodstream is a busy highway. Every meal sends thousands of glucose molecules onto that highway. Your muscles act like parking garages, safely storing much of that glucose for later use. Your liver is the traffic controller, deciding whether to store glucose, release it, or convert it into glycogen for future energy. When everything is working well, traffic flows smoothly. But after a large, carbohydrate-heavy dinner followed by several hours of sitting, it's like rush hour traffic with nowhere to go. Glucose lingers in your bloodstream longer than it should. Your pancreas has to release more insulin. Your liver becomes overloaded, and your overnight recovery process starts at a disadvantage before your head even hits the pillow. That's why the very first strategy has nothing to do with medication or supplements. It begins with something incredibly simple. A 10-minute walk about 20 to 30 minutes after finishing your evening meal. It may sound too easy to matter, but the science behind it is remarkable. As your muscles contract while you walk, they activate specialized proteins called GLUT4 transporters, allowing glucose to move directly from your bloodstream into your muscle cells. This process can occur with much less reliance on insulin than when you're sitting still. By reducing the size of your post-meal glucose rise, you're giving your liver a lighter workload as it begins its overnight job of regulating glucose and replenishing glycogen stores. In other words, you're setting your body up for a better night's metabolic recovery before you even brush your teeth. And this is exactly why what you eat for dinner matters just as much as what you do afterward. Let's take a closer look. Lunch is a far better window to consume these carbs than dinner, particularly if you're active after work or you're running errands that day. Dinner is one of those meals that can have the least amount of built-in movement after you finished eating, which again makes it the worst meal to load up on carbs. But we're going to fix that. We're going to shoot for a smaller, less carb-heavy dinner. And we're also going to include that 10-minute walk in the first 20 to 30 minutes after you finished eating. Now, tactic number 2 is the one that almost nobody has heard of, and it is genuinely surprising. I'm talking about the correlation between room temperature and glucose control. Sleeping in a cooler room does more than just improve sleep quality. Cooler ambient temperature during sleep activates a small but measurable increase in brown adipose tissue activity, the metabolically active fat that burns glucose for heat production. Research has found that sleeping in a room around 66 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to a warmer room in the mid-70s, was associated with improved overnight glucose metabolism and better insulin sensitivity. The following. Morning. The mechanism is your body working slightly harder to maintain core body temperature throughout the night. This keeps a low level of glucose-burning metabolic activity running in the background while your liver is simultaneously working through that glycogen replenishment process. This is a completely passive intervention. You don't have to wake up. You don't have to exercise. You don't have to change your diet. You simply set the thermostat lower about an hour before bedtime. Now, before we get into the last two tactics that most directly impact your fasting morning blood sugar, if this kind of practical and non-obvious information is exactly what you've been looking for, please consider subscribing. It's completely free, and every subscribe genuinely helps push this information out to the people that need to hear it the most. Now, the third tactic involves hydration. And most people know that hydration is good when it comes to blood sugar control, but very few people know how to time it correctly. Your kidneys are one of your body's primary routes for actually eliminating excess glucose, not just regulating it. But your kidneys can only clear so much sugar per unit of urine based on basic osmotic limits. So what does that mean? If you're dehydrated, your kidneys physically cannot flush out as much excess glucose, no matter how well everything else is working. That means staying well hydrated throughout the day is a genuine physical mechanism for helping your body eliminate excess blood sugar, not just a wellness tip that you hear people talk about. But the timing matters here too. If you load up on water late in the evening to try to compensate for a day of poor hydration, you're very likely to wake up multiple times overnight to urinate. And that sleep disruption itself can worsen blood sugar control the next day, creating the exact problem you were trying to avoid. The fix to this is simple. You want to front-load your hydration earlier in the day. So, by the time the clock rolls around until about 2 hours before your bedtime, you've already given the kidneys what they need to do their job efficiently. I would really try to focus on getting most of your hydration done from the minute you wake up until about the middle of the afternoon. It may feel a little uncomfortable at first, but honestly, this one change alone will help your morning blood sugar readings dramatically. Now, tactic number 4 has been consistently replicated in human research, and almost nobody is using it at the right time of the day. I'm talking about using apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar taken shortly before your last meal of the day, or shortly before bed, has been shown across multiple control trials to meaningfully lower fasting glucose the following morning. And the mechanism runs through 2 separate pathways. First, the acetic acid in the vinegar slows gastric emptying, which blunts how quickly glucose from your last meal enters the bloodstream in the first place. Again, giving your liver a calmer glucose load to work with as it starts its overnight glycogen replenishment. And secondly, acetic acid appears to directly improve insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. This means the insulin your body does release can work more efficiently to clear glucose from the blood rather than leaving it in circulation longer than it needs to be. The practical tactic and how to implement this is simple. Do 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar diluted in about 8 ounces of water, either taken with or preferably shortly before the last meal of your day. You have to make sure to dilute the apple cider vinegar, as it's acidic enough to cause tooth damage and irritate the esophagus over time. If you don't want to use the liquid itself, you can also buy capsules to be taken around the same time that can work just as well. If you want the best and most affordable version of apple cider vinegar on Amazon, I'll put a link to both the capsules and the liquid in the description below. I want to address one last thing quickly before ending this video, because I know a lot of people watching this video are already on diabetic medication, and you may be wondering, how does my medication fit into all of this? Some medications like the SGLT2 inhibitor class, things like Jardian, Farxiga, and Invokana, work by forcing your kidneys to flush out excess sugar through the urine whenever blood sugar crosses a certain threshold. That's a real, legitimate mechanism, and for many people, these medications are necessary and appropriate. But I want to be clear with you. This is not the first-line approach, or at least it shouldn't be. Medication doing the flushing out for you is very different than your own body flushing out the sugar in the exact mechanisms that we just talked about. If you're relying entirely on medication without creating those healthy habits, you're working against yourself. And in many cases, you can actually make things worse. The tactics in this video is what I want you to try first alongside medication if necessary. But regardless, if you do these tactics over and over, you will see results and your blood sugar will come down as well as your A1C. Now, if you like what you've heard in this video, and you want to take just one more step forward in terms of knowing what are the right foods, the right movement strategies, sleep habits, and other evidence-based supplements to help reverse my type 2 diabetes or even your prediabetes, I put all of that information together in my free resource called the Metabolic Blueprint. You can find it using the link in the description below. Finally, he grants sleep to those he loves. This is from the book of Psalm 127-2. In my next video, I talk about 6 additional tactics that can lower your blood sugar faster than anything else at all. They pair perfectly with the things we talked about in this video. So if you're interested, you're going to want to check out that next video right here.